Very welcome back to the Lovin Dubai show. Today's guest is Dr. Wafa, a clinical psychologist, child, adolescent, families and psychoeducational specialist at Sage Clinics. With so many parents juggling new routines, school stress and everything in between, Dr. Wafa is here to share practical tips to make that transition smoother for both parents and kids. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning.
So it's back to school season.
It is.
It's hectic mornings, chaotic mornings. Yes. But what are the most common challenges kids face when adjusting to new routines?
Yeah, I think waking up is really hard. I think adjusting to new routines is hard for everyone, not just children.
Yeah.
So I think waking up is a part of the hardest one. And if you can get into a consistent schedule of waking up on time, then the others kind of routine pieces can fall gradually into place a little bit easier. And so some of the tips I do usually give people is start with waking up at the exact same time every day. Be sure to try and be consistent with meal times and going to bed. And when you wake up, try to get outside. I know it's really hot. Try to get outside for a couple minutes in the sun because that helps to kind of boost your system. And then gradually the meal times and bedtime might fall into place a little bit easier. At bedtime, make sure you're dimming the lights. So sunshine morning, dim lights in the evening to start winding down.
We've heard bedtime can be called labeled like negotiation hour.
Yeah.
So because it's, bedtime is at 9, so at 8 parents are probably gearing up for the kids. But what are your thoughts on negotiation bribery to make something like this happen in back to school time?
I mean, I'm a fan of rewards. I think when you use rewards well, I mean, you come to work, right? And you wouldn't come to work if it wasn't rewarding.
Yeah,
so I think rewards can be really helpful if used well, but I think it needs to be proactive rather than reactive. So if you're ahead of time, using a contingency, if we can get to bed on time tonight, then tomorrow morning you get to pick your breakfast. Then you're using it in a really planned way. But if you give in last minute and you change a boundary last minute, then you're teaching your child that they can get away with things. And so you really want to be firm. You want to be clear with expectations. And it's okay to use rewards, but you want to do that ahead of time and proactively rather than reactively. So you really want to set firm boundaries. And it's okay to use rewards. That's kind of my perspective.
So you got the child to bed, you wake them up, and it's time to take them to school, okay?
Yeah.
Some kids may struggle with separation anxiety.
Yeah.
So what signs should parents look out for a child that may have separation anxiety?
Yeah, sometimes kids will show teariness at drop-off or sort of holding on to the parent's hand. Maybe for the older kids, you might see a lot of somebody who might be usually chatty, maybe getting really quiet. But sometimes you also don't see that and you'll hear complaints about headaches or stomach aches. And they might really be feeling kind of sick and unwell and it manifests in them saying oh, I have a sick tummy or my head kind of hurts or I feel dizzy. So those might be signs that the child is struggling to separate in the morning.
Interesting, because I was a teacher for a short stint and I saw kids coming and being upset, and I also saw parents coming and being upset. So how do you kind of sometimes navigate when, is it ever more the parents than the kids?
Do you feel like that was a guiding question?
Well, do you see when, because we're kind of leading with kids here, but sometimes it could be more the parents.
Yes, absolutely. It's really tough because parents also get to have a lot of extra time with their children over the summer, and it can feel really magical. Especially if you go away on vacation and you're getting a lot of, special time together, and you're getting to see pieces of them that you don't normally get to see when they're in school. You're getting to see the sort of little wild parts of them. They're running around, they're playing, they're really enjoying, they're connecting with your family if you're visiting family abroad. So you get to see these little magical pieces of them that you're not going to see as much when the school year starts. And of course, you can get attached too, and you might also be returning to work and it's a change, and so it makes sense that parents also sometimes feel that separation anxiety, and they might be feeling those same symptoms, that upset stomach, the head, I want to cry, the tears kind of welling, that feeling of that dread feeling of dropping the child off at school. Yeah.
And how can parents help ease a child that has separation anxiety? How can they help them make them feel safer, make them feel happier, make them feel better?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing we need to kind of highlight is that separation anxiety can be really normal, especially after a long summer off from school. And so you want to handle it with confidence, because you want to communicate to the child that this is really normal and this is okay and you got this, right? Like, you can handle this. I know you can handle this. So you want to keep those goodbyes brief in the morning. You want to, of course, be really warm and comforting, and at the same time, kind of really boundaried around your own tears. You want to contain your own emotions. I don't often say that. I think emotional expression is really good. And at the same time, sometimes we need to contain, right? So you want to contain your own tears. You want to remind yourself that your child's okay. You're dropping them off at, a place where there's people who can take care of them. And you want to communicate the same to your child. And so when you do that firm, sort of like warm but firm goodbye, you're communicating to them, you're okay. And let's say you do have a child who's younger, a bit anxious about separating, you can also arrange for a handover. So you can arrange for like a teacher to maybe meet them at the door, or for a counselor to meet them at the door. And you're actually communicating to the child in that moment that there's other people in the world that are also good people, right? Because you can think of it as a teachable moment, right? So it's a moment for connection and a moment to teach. So I really do recommend that parents kind of stay calm internally, and communicate and express that like confidence in their child to handle that goodbye and that separation.
You mentioned earlier coming back from abroad, and they may have spent time with families, grandparents and granddads that were abroad. Do you see specific challenges related to Dubai families that other countries may not, in terms of being expats, or maybe people coming new to a school from another country?
I do, yeah. I think there's a lot of amazing things about living in Dubai and being a family that's living in Dubai. And one of the unique challenges is that so much of your family is abroad a lot of the times. And so I do see that difficulty in adjusting to being away from cousins and family, because there's just so much comfort that you can sometimes get from family, and so much of that feeling of like belonging. Also the parent, right? Like, a lot of the times parents are really stressed out throughout the year with work, and then when they're on vacation seeing their own family members, they're happier and they're more relaxed, and so the child feels that as well, and so they're connecting with their own parent in a different way when they're abroad. And so I do definitely see some of that unique challenge. Also, right now it's really hot in Dubai, and so a lot of kids when they're abroad right now are maybe able to play outside and swim outside and do some water activities. Right now it's a little bit harder to do that in Dubai, so they're not able to get outside, get the sunlight, the vitamin D, and that connection through play that they might get outside with people. So I think that's also a unique challenge.
So school days can be really tough on the child in terms of peer pressure. So how can parents maybe notice signs of maybe potential bullying or peer pressure, or help handle it in any way?
Yeah, it's a really great question. While there's really separation anxiety can be really normal, there's sometimes really good reasons for why children might struggle to get back to school, and one of those can be peer pressures and peer challenges, especially if a child's being bullied. And one of the best ways that parents can spot that is by talking with their child, making sure they're maintaining open lines of communication, asking about the best parts of their day, the hardest parts of their day. What did you do today at lunch? Keeping it really open-ended. What did you do today at lunch? Who did you meet today? Especially if they're kind of transitioning to a new school. And so keeping those open lines of communication can help you spot it. And then ways to handle it. You want to make sure the child knows it's okay to not have perfect friendships, that there will be some challenges in friendships, and that we need to kind of be mindful of those and notice those, and sometimes friends make us feel really good and comfortable, and sometimes friends don't. And so we want to try and gravitate towards the positive influences, because as much as there might be negative influences and negative peer pressure, there's also a lot of positive kind of peer influences. So you want to teach them about that. What does a positive peer influence look like? Somebody who maybe motivates you to study, maybe somebody who motivates you to try out for a sport team or a club, somebody who makes you feel good when they sit next to you, somebody who includes you and invites you to parties. So while you do want to help them manage that negative peer pressure, help them learn how to say no, you can role play with them. Like if somebody says this to you, this is what you say back, and directly ask them to kind of role play it with you. At the same time, you also want to teach them what's positive and who to gravitate towards.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If you're, maybe if you got kind of 8, 9-year-olds and you can kind of sense that they're upset because the friendship groups are starting, and you can have these conversations, but if at that age your kids are being closed off and they're not open to the conversations that you're having, is there next steps that you would take?
I would, yeah. there's only so much that parents can do. And sometimes, even though parents are a really great and safe place for their children, sometimes kids just, for various reasons, have a hard time opening up to their parents. At that point, I would recommend connecting the child with somebody they can open up to. That might be a counselor, or that might be somebody at a clinic, a psychologist at a clinic, or a clinician at a clinic. And having that sort of like space where the child can go and speak to somebody who they don't necessarily have to see every single day at home, somebody who's a little bit further removed, can make it a little bit easier sometimes for the child to open up. So I would recommend at that point connecting them with somebody who might be able to also help them communicate.
What would be the main reason why the child wouldn't communicate with the parents? Because of out of fear or embarrassment, or are they not having this safe space?
Yeah, it could be a lot of different reasons. It could be out of fear, it could be out of embarrassment, it could be that they don't feel comfortable talking to their parent, maybe they worry about the parent's reaction. It could be they worry about stressing out the parent, so it could be sometimes that parents get really stressed and anxious, so then it's like, well, if I tell my parents this, they're just gonna get more anxious, it's just gonna make me feel worse. It could be they're worried about how the parent will handle it with the school, like will my mom go and talk to the counselor or to the principal? Or it could be also that it feels so good to be at home that they don't want to taint that with something negative, that their parent is somebody they just want to go to for like, the comfort and kind of connection, and they don't want to taint that with something negative, because then they'll have to live with it. Then they'll have to keep talking to their parent about it.
And they'll be asked every day, basically, like, what happened today? Did they talk to you?
You just want to keep it nice. Let's speak on the pressures a bit that kids might face when they're in school. So exams and getting high marks for one. What's the best way parents can help without causing extra stress? So you want your kids to do well, but you don't want to push them too hard.
Yeah, it's such a tough one to balance. There's so much kind of buzz right now on the word balance that it is really hard, because research shows that actually a little bit of stress is okay. Right? Like having a little bit of stress motivates us. It makes us work harder. It sort of like turns us on. It stimulates us to work harder. But too much stress will then get in the way of sleep, concentration, emotional well-being. So we want to make sure that we are kind of encouraging and setting the right amount of expectations, but not over kind of stressing the child. And so one of the ways to do this is to praise efforts over grades. I know it's really challenging for parents and for schools, because I think there's so much emphasis on grades. But if you're kind of really praising efforts, then as a byproduct, the grades can also come, right? But by shifting the focus to effort, you're help to kind of minimize some of that stress and pressure on getting a high grade, while also helping the child feel motivated throughout, rather than it being like, oh, now there's all the stress that's coming on with this exam right now. Yeah.
Just on exams, because it's actually GCSE Awards Day today, so there's a lot of 18-year-olds getting their results, and there's like some comments coming through on it. So if students are getting results that they're unhappy with, and it's kind of a difficult time in life, would you have any advice on how parents can kind of navigate that?
Oh, that's such a hard one, especially because they've worked so hard to get there. Honestly, I think one of the most important things is to zoom out. That this is one moment in time, it's one exam. You have your whole life ahead of you. It's okay to make mistakes. Failure is redirection. That this isn't going to be the end of everything that you ever wanted to do. I think a lot of times kids think that if they don't get a certain grade, that means they're not going to get into the school that they want to get into, the university they want to get into, they can't do the job that they want to do. And honestly, that's really not true, because there's chances you can make up for things. And even if you can't get into the university that you want, you might get into another university that might actually be better for you. And then you can also kind of move towards what you want to do. There isn't just one path to getting to where you want to go. And I think it's really important that parents remember to kind of help their kids zoom out and not get overly fixated on this one failure. Yeah.
So speaking of, maybe the child learns how to deal with the stress, or doesn't get the result that the parents might not accept. So this is a tip, maybe if you have an advice for students, how to handle these expectations from parents of always getting high scores, high grades, and dealing with disappointed parents if they don't get the grades that the parents are expecting.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I think is really tough about this is that when kids feel like they're disappointing their parents, they feel like a disappointment, right? So then there's this like belief that starts to form like, I'm a disappointment, I'm not good enough. I think it's really important to separate that my parents feel disappointed because there's something that they wanted from me from I'm a disappointment.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to remind ourselves that we all have areas of strengths and challenges, that there's things about us that, you know, are so valuable and lovable and great, and that just because somebody's disappointed in us, because they're going to feel that disappointment throughout life. There's going to be other people that are disappointed in them at some point in life. But just because somebody's disappointed in us, that does not mean that we are a disappointment. That doesn't mean that we're not good enough. That's more about my parent or more about the other person kind of feeling like their expectations weren't met, but that doesn't mean that I'm a failure, that I'm not good enough, and that I'm not lovable. And that my parents are also experiencing, they're human, they're experiencing that feeling of disappointment right now because they wanted something specific for me, and they will come around, right? They will come around once they also get over this initial disappointment.
Finally, before you leave us, we learn a lot on this show. We get a lot of mindful techniques, which I love, and they're generally things that you do solo. And I'm just wondering, are there any mindful techniques for younger kids that parents can do with them to kind of practice mindfulness at a young age?
Yeah. So I think mindfulness can look, mindfulness has like a really broad definition, and really, if we think about it really broadly, it's about sort of like being present and just being able to notice without judgment everything that's going on around you. And then there are tools that we can use that help us be more mindful. And the thing that you want to think about with mindfulness is what takes us out of the present moment. So what is it that actually makes it hard for us to be present? Sometimes it's our phone. Sometimes it's past memories and past experiences. Sometimes it's worry about the future. Sometimes it's just like the different distractions that we can get distracted with around us. And so by calming our nervous system and bringing ourselves out of thoughts of the future, out of thoughts of the past, we are then better able to stay a little bit more grounded in the present. So one tool that I like to work with all ages on, because I think it's a really nice one, is imagery, which can help us to kind of stay kind of grounded so that we can come back to the present moment. Imagery is like you imagine a calm, safe space in your mind. You imagine what it looks like. You imagine how it feels. Is the sun shining through? Is it nighttime? Is there wind? Where's the wind hitting you? What's around you? Who's there? Is it just you? What are you hearing? And you help guide them through kind of just doing that little bit of a safe, calm space imagery, which can help to kind of soothe the nervous system so that they can come back into the present moment. So you can do that like on the car on the way to school. You can do it in the morning at home. You can do it together over, you know, your breakfast. You can say, oh, we're all going to do some imagery today if you're doing it with like really young kids. So I think that imagery is a really nice one that can help at any point in time, because you don't need any tools. You can just close your eyes and go into your mind, right? That can help at any time, help you calm down so that you can come back into the present moment.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
If anyone watching today would like to contact you at Sage, how can they do so?
Yeah, we have, I don't have my card on me right now to tell you my exact phone number. I guess I should. But you can look us up online, Sage Clinics. You can contact us directly at our appointments admin line, and they will forward your call to me. I do also sometimes parents don't know what they're looking for. Sometimes, you know, older teens who are calling in, they're not sure what the process might be. We do 15-minute complimentary introductory calls. They can speak with one of the psychologists on the team, and we can get to know them a little bit better and guide them a little bit around next steps if they'd like as well.
Super helpful. Thank you so much, Dr. Wafa.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wafa.
Thank you, Casey.
And that is the end of the Lovin Dubai show. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.